are going to touch on whether or not daily driving a Hellcat is really worth it. And I've got about 2 years now of daily driving, and I think I've got a pretty good idea on whether or not this is something I could give you as advice or tell you to stay away from. One of the first questions a lot of people ask me when it comes to daily driving a Hellcat is, doesn't the thing suck down gas? And to answer that the most honest way that I can, I come from a day where gas was a couple bucks. At max, 93 octane was $1.50, $2. Current prices in the United States, in my area of the country, which is the Midwest, we pay anywhere from $3.50 all the way up to $5 a gallon for 93 octane. So I have to keep that in mind when I say whether or not this car is a gas guzzler, because my old 5-liter Mustang would average about 17 miles per gallon, maybe, if I was lucky. Fuel injections help that a lot. With fuel injection, it's made fueling a lot more efficient. However, the older sequential systems, they weren't as good as the newer systems are. I, on average, in my car, will get anywhere from 18 to 24 miles per gallon, depending on how spirited I'm driving the vehicle. So what does that translate to? I live about a half hour from the shop. So on a daily basis, I drive anywhere from 30 to 40 miles, and I maybe spend $65 to $70 a week in gas. So is it a gas sipper? By no means at all is it a gas sipper. But it's also not terrible. It's something that I can tolerate. It's affordable for me and my budget, and I really enjoy the car. So for me, it's an investment in my happiness, and you can't put a dollar amount on your happiness. I'm going to apologize now. There's a little white thing that comes in at the top of the screen every once in a while. Those are my fuzzy dice, and that's the tag off my fuzzy dice. I'm going to try and edit it out, but you might catch it every once in a while. So here's the second question that I often get asked. Well, how modified is your Hellcat? And I've been very smart with my modifications. The reason I say I've been smart is I've never cracked open the engine. The stock valve cover gaskets are still in place. The only thing I've changed in this car as far as a maintenance item goes is oil filter, and spark plugs. That's it. No camshaft, no cylinder heads, no rod bolts, no nothing. My modification list is affordable bolt-ons that anyone could do, like an upper and lower pulley, headers. I run E85, so I have larger fuel injectors. And my critical thing, the one thing that is the most important thing to my car and how it performs, is my tune. All right, so you're going to notice a quick change of scenery. I recorded part of this video in a car wash, and the audio was just horrible. So another question I get asked is, aren't you worried about depreciation or damaging your vehicle driving it every day? And honestly, no. The reason I don't worry about it is I spent a lot of money on this car so that I can enjoy it, not so that somebody can enjoy it 20 years from now. And the car's got over 100,000 miles on it. When I purchased it, it had a little over 50 something thousand, 60,000 miles. So in 2 years, I put almost 40,000 miles on this car, if not over 40,000 miles. And I'm not worried about scratches, damage, basically because I have the skills and ability to fix it. I have a monthly subscription to a car wash. I roll it through whenever there's inclement weather, there's salt on the road. I get the car washed as often as possible to make sure that that salt doesn't stay on the paint surface and cause damage down the road. Now, do I have a couple chips here and there, some scratches, some dings and dents? Yeah, 100%. And one day I'm going to go ahead and get all that stuff fixed. But for right now, I'm just enjoying my investment in my happiness. Another question I get asked very often is, aren't you afraid you're going to break something? Actually, yes, I'm very afraid that I'm going to break something. And in that brings into my tune, my choice in parts, my choice in modifications. And a lot of you guys are going to comment that I can't be making that much horsepower because I don't have a whole heck of a lot of mods. And once again, a change in scenery, folks. I just went out to the car to look for my time slips so I could post them in this video, and I've lost my car file. I don't know if I left it at the shop. So I will eventually post my time slips as soon as I find them and figure out where they are. And you might be right. All of my statements are based on trap speeds at the quarter mile. So this car has never been on the dyno to prove my horsepower levels. All of my horsepower claims are based on that quarter mile an hour at the end. I'm not a professional drag racer by any means. So my 60 foots, things of that nature, they do mean a lot, but this car sometimes has a problem with traction. So I go for my, mile an hour at the end of the track. That tells me how much power I'm making with how much this car weighs. And I average anywhere from 140 to 145 miles an hour in the traps. Now, it doesn't translate well with my track times because the fastest I've ever been able to go in this car when it actually hooked up was a 10.0. But it was a 10.0 at 146 miles an hour. My 60-foot time was about 1.8 seconds. So had I gotten that 60-foot time down to what my best 60-foot time is to date, which is a 1.4, that would have been a 9-second quarter mile in a very mildly modified Hellcat. Last question we're going to talk about, because I do drive a Hellcat. We all know the stigma that comes along with a Hellcat. Aren't you afraid it's going to get stolen? I am afraid it's going to get stolen, but I have 3 things covering my rear end when it comes to my car getting stolen and if it were to get stolen. First thing is I have an IGLA pass lock system on my car. Now, what this does is, in order to start my car, you need to put a passcode in on the steering wheel controls in order to be able to actually get access to the ignition to start the engine. The second thing I have, and this is something I do with every one of my vehicles that I finance, is I have gap protection. We all know the cars depreciate in value very quickly, and if this car were to get stolen, it would be very expensive to replace it with something of similar value if the insurance company is only going to give me 40% of the value of the car. What that gap insurance does is it covers my butt if I'm upside down on my loan at all. Now, thankfully for this car, I'm not upside down, so I didn't need gap coverage, but I still have it. And then the third thing I do is I make sure that I always park my car in very crowded spaces so that you have to genuinely look to see my car is even a Hellcat. There are no badges that state that this car is a Hellcat. You can see my embroidery on my seat, yes, but that's it. I've got a logo on the front that is my specific logo that I created for my car, and it's got a demon head with a little X around it because this is a demon killer. And it throws people off. They think it's a V6 with, you know, somebody trying to make it look like a Hellcat, and I use that to my advantage.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
So in conclusion, these are the most common questions that I get when I tell people that I daily drive a Hellcat that has 100,000 miles on it and still runs 140 plus miles an hour in the quarter and has had 0 massive breakdowns. Now, I've had a couple of broken parts here and there. I had a thermostat fail, which anybody who's in the Hemi community, you all know there was a rash of bad thermostats. And I have to invest in tires a lot. Average set of tires will last anywhere from 15 to 20,000 miles. And that's if I don't drive like an idiot. If I drive like an idiot, I'm putting tires on this thing every 5,000 or 6,000 miles. So, is it smart to daily drive a Hellcat? If it's in your budget to spend anywhere from $300 to $400 a month on incidentals for your vehicle, then yeah, it's perfectly fine to daily drive a Hellcat. If you're worried about theft, damage, things of that nature, make sure that you have good insurance coverage. Make sure that you have gap insurance if you have a loan on the vehicle, because that will prevent you losing when the car does get damaged or stolen. And then make sure that the car's not overly flashy. If the car's overly flashy, you're going to end up with problems. People want your car. I have a gray Hellcat. It's not fancy. Yes, I have wide body fender flares on the back. I have big wide tires on the back. And it gets a lot of thumbs up as I'm going down the road. A lot of people tell me, oh, that's how they should have been built from the factory. And you know what? I kind of agree with them. I think that my car looks badass. But my car doesn't look like 90% of the really badass Hellcats that are out there. So for me, daily driving this car, it's just like when I had my RT. I get in, I turn the key, and I go. If somebody messes with me on the road and I feel like being froggy, they're going to F-A-F-O. And I've had a couple Jeeps and some guys in Scat Packs that they thought they had the advantage, and they honestly didn't. And it's a lot of fun. For me, this car de-stresses me. It lets me concentrate on life, and it lets me turn the outside world off for a little bit, even if it's for 30 minutes at a time. And that's why I daily drive my Hellcat. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.